Welcome into the BRICKYARD preview. We are going to be previewing the playoff picture and going over our top 5 worst teams in the league and our top 5 teams in the league. And then maybe a little bit of extra insight we'll be able to go over into the playoff picture, because we are at the point right now where pretty much every single game matters. I know in the AFC, one loss could drop you down 2, 3, 4 standings or even into the wild card mix. And we're going to spend plenty of time going over the entire AFC playoff picture. We're going to go in depth, go over our bubble teams and our contenders there. Then we're going to move over into that NFC, go over those bubble teams and the contenders there, let you know what the schedules are, which teams has a harder schedule, and based off that, we'll predict whether or not they'll be able to make it into the playoffs. And then we're also going to go over what matchup is best for the teams and who do you want to face in the wild card round, what wild card teams are the most dangerous team, and what teams could be cause to pause for an upset, and how much these matchups will matter in the AFC and the NFC matchup. I am hyped though to get into it. It is the BRICKYARD podcast, and we typically start out the preview episode with the worst teams in the league. We have the documents. We have the worst teams in the league. We have the most accurate, most in-depth, most insightful list for the top 5 worst teams for our fans. And this is what you look forward to week in and week out here at the BRICKYARD podcast.
The reason why you have a phone, the reason why you have a computer, the reason why you have the internet is for these 2 segments here, the best and the worst top 5, brought to you by the BRICKYARD, most confidential, most secure, most reliable top 5 rankings, top bottom 5 rankings in the NFL. So without further ado, why don't we get into it? Now, before I get into my top 5, I will tell you who teams are off the list this week, whether because they got to win or maybe they showed some sort of conviction, some sort of heart in their team. Team number 1 got to win. They've actually won back-to-back games for a team that I have dragged through the ringer, but they got a little bit of that spice here now. They got Mama's cooking back at home. The Giants are spared. Tommy DeVito, back-to-back games of 100 QBR. First undrafted rookie to do so. So credit to him. The Giants will be spared this week. Another team that will be spared this week is the Buffalo Bills. They played a good game against the Eagles. Couple things go the other way. Perhaps they actually win that game and help their playoff chances. So they will be spared. A team that is an honorable mention this week. I couldn't quite put them above some of these other teams, but they had the most pathetic game of the week, the Toilet Bowl. I have to put the Chicago Bears as an honorable mention because what the fuck was that Monday night game? I'm so sick and tired of seeing these awful games. This is one of the worst games I've ever seen. You have 4 interceptions. You have 4 interceptions that you have from Josh Dobbs, and it equates to 0 touchdowns, 4 field goals, and that is what ultimately won you the game. So congratulations to the first team to win a game this year with 0 touchdowns. Congratulations. Very proud. Number 5 team, I've been very kind to them this year because I fell in love with their quarterback who filled in for their injured quarterback. Beginning of the season, they were never a good team, but I was kind to them because, you know, I've spent a lot of time in this particular state, and I've grown to love this little state, the 602. That is Glendale, Arizona. And I'm talking about the Arizona Cardinals, okay? They are now the 2nd overall pick if the season ended today. And I thought that when Kyler Murray came back that they had a chance to win a couple games and maybe play some upset ball. And then this last week, they went on and faced their division rivals, or should I say their division fathers in the Los Angeles Rams. We're talking 2-13 against Sean McVay since he took over the head coaching realms in 2017. That is outright embarrassing. That is Jets against the Patriots level bad. That is Broncos versus Chiefs level bad. Shame on you. This is an organization. You go to play and win games, and this is what you bring to the table. Shame on you, Arizona. Shame on you.
Yeah, shame on you, Arizona.
Number 4, this team I was kind to as well. I was like, you know what? I feel bad what happened to their franchise quarterback, staring his ACL first week of the season. You have to bring in Zach Wilson. He has to take over the realms, but I'm tired of it. They have the worst record since 2016, 38-87. Horrible. 18 quarterbacks since I started watching football in 2007. We're talking about the Christian Hackenbergs of the world, the Bryce Pettys, the Geno Smiths before Seattle. We're talking about Sam Dangerous, Sam Darnold, Zach Wilson, one of the worst quarterbacks I've ever seen play the game. And now you bring out Tim Boyle, who had 2 touchdowns. He had 2 more touchdowns in college than I did. Not very impressive whatsoever, but somehow he's got the dark secrets of the NFL, and he found a way to start an NFL game this year, and it was an absolute eyesore. And the Jets, they buried themselves their own grave. First, you think that Aaron Rodgers is going to solve your problems despite not having an offensive line. He says, sign Randall Cobb out of retirement. Literally had to drag him out of a nursing home. Adam Lazard, the lizard himself, somehow finessing the New York Jets to give him 4 years and $48 million. Are you kidding me?
Good for
Adam
you, Adam.
Lazard. Get that bag, Adam Lazard. And then to where you are now, hiring Nathaniel Hackett as offensive coordinator after you saw just how bad Russell Wilson was. Shame on you, New York. You have been pathetic, and that is why for the remainder of the season, you will not be known as the New York Jets. You will be known as the New Jersey Boogers. Moving on.
Shame on you, Jets.
Shame. And then we have the Heartbreak Kids themselves out of SoFi Stadium. I have the Los Angeles Chargers. They are a new level of heartbreak. My poor friend, Mr. Devin Gennard, I will call him by thy name. Chargers superfan, dare I say. And this man is broken right now. He is heartbroken every single week. He continues to burn his jerseys. Khalil Mack is next. Continuously heartbreak. This kid just wants love, and all he gets is pain. And he doesn't deserve that. This team, they have allowed 475 yards in half of their games. That is the defensive guru in Brandon Staley. Well, I hope you're a guru at making coffee because you will soon be a Starbucks barista by season's end. They are 0-5 in one-score games. Pathetic. They are nothing but a heartbreaking team. Every single year, they just stomp on the balls of their fans, and I am tired of seeing it. Chargers, you are number 3.
Shame on you, Chargers.
Shame. Number 2, who played a part in the toilet bowl game of last week. I have the New England Pancreas, New England Patriots. You missed a 35-yarder? Really? A 35-yarder by Chad the Leg Ryland? What an absolute embarrassment. This is the first team in over 35 years to give up 10 points or less and still lose both of those games. Absolutely anemic. They have scored 13 points a game all season. That's not going to get it done in the NFL. They are the new version of what the Denver Broncos were last year. If they just had a competent offense, where would they be? If their offense could score, dare I say, 17 points a game, where their team could be. Or better yet, if they could just score, period. Because in more of these games, half of their games, they have not scored more than 10 points. You take out that Bills game, they haven't scored more than 17 points. Not only that, why do you keep starting Mac Jones? You know what to expect. He's going to throw it to the other team more than he throws it to his team. You're going to say, oh, his wide receivers. Oh, I don't want to hear it anymore. You have him. You have Bailey Zappi. You have Will Grier. You guys are playing musical chairs with your quarterback room for some reason. I'm going to start Mac Jones. I'm going to cut Bailey Zappi. I'm going to bring back Will Grier. I'm going to cut Malik Cunningham. I'm going to start. What are you doing?
Matt
This is confusing everybody.
Ruin a career.
Ruining career of Matt Corral. It's absolutely anemic. And I'm tired of talking about these Patriots teams, because I want to spend just enough time to talk about the number 1 worst team. And I know in weeks past, I've had them on various points, but they have been one of the only teams who have been on this list every single week of the worst top 5. Consistency is kid. Unfortunately for this particular list, you don't want to be on this list. I have the 1-10 lowly Carolina Panthers. Now, the only bright spot from this week is that they fired Frank Reich off of their head coaching tree. They fired him, Josh McCown, and Deuce Staley. Deuce Staley basically just putting a deuce on the field every single week. That's right, I just made a poop joke. The Carolina Panthers, okay? Tell me these two teams, right? One team drafted their franchise quarterback, drafted a wide receiver in that draft, signed a veteran receiver, signed a veteran tight end, and traded their star wide receiver. All right. One of them drafted Bryce Young, drafted Jonathan Mingo, signed Adam Thielen, signed Hayden Hurst, and traded away DJ Moore. The other one drafted CJ Stroud, drafted Tank Dell, signed Robert Woods, signed Dalton Schultz, and traded away Brandon Cooks. Where are they today? Well, let me tell you. Carolina Panthers have the worst offense, even worse than Ming-Hao Mack and the New England Patriots. They have the lowest scoring offense. On the other side of the ball, they are in the playoffs. They are potentially an MVP in CJ Stroud. Oh, how the titles have turned. The Panthers, 47-78 since they went 15-1 in 2015. This is a team that was a juggernaut with Cam Newton. And for some reason, this team, they went from Cam Newton turning into Isaac Newton, defying gravity for one season. Josh Norman turning into Normandy Island for a period of time. Shaq Thompson turning into prime Shaquille O'Neal. And Jonathan Stewart turning into Jonathan Taylor for just one season. An anomaly that is the 2015 Panthers. And since then, they have been one of the top 5 worst teams in the NFL. If I were to make a top 5 worst teams of the decade, they would be on that list. And ever since TJ Watt ruined their career, it has been anemic. This team is the staple. They have lost their credibility as a Panther. They are now the Kitty Cats. Carolina Kitty Cats are the worst team in the NFL. You heard it here from the Brickyard. Most confidential, most reliable, most accurate form of entertainment on the internet. The reason why you have an internet, the reason why you have the phone. Worst top 5.
Shame on you, Panthers. Oh my God. I don't think I can follow that up. That was too beautiful, especially with the Carolina Panthers. I'm in tears right now over that trade. Can you, before I have to go into my list, you have a message from a Chargers fan. Do you want to read that on the show just to show how much pain Chargers fans are in right now?
Let me find this message here because this is pain. Nobody deserves this. I want to find it while we pull this up. But in the meantime, thoughts on the list, anything you would change?
Yeah, I thought the list was great. I would probably slide the Chargers up above the Patriots just because you do have Justin Herbert. You do have talented players on that offense here. You do have some expectations there. So overall, if we're grading this like a strength of schedule, the amount of talent you have on your team like college does, I would put the Chargers up a little higher, but I do agree with every other team on that list. Beautiful list so far. So another job well done. And then the Panthers have been the most consistent team on the top 5 list. We've seen teams like the Broncos graduate from the list and go on to greener pastures, do better things in the NFL. We've seen the Minnesota Vikings pull themselves off of the list when they had those turnover problems and then go on to greener pastures. We've even seen the Chicago Bears play sloppy enough, bad, well enough football to get off of that list there. So, it is possible to pull yourself on the list, but consistency is key. And the Patriots and the Panthers have consistently sucked.
Consistently. And for now, at this point, the Giants have been off this list long enough. But I have a message from a Chargers fan. The reason why they are the 3rd worst team, according to the Brickyard podcast. Here is a sermon from the Chargers super fan. He goes, I actually hate being a Chargers fan, and I want you guys to know that. Don't root for the Los Angeles Chargers. You will be only let down. Nobody deserves this. This is the worst football season I have seen yet. Very fitting that Zay Flowers has a game-winning touchdown, and Quentin Johnson drops the game-winning ball. And then he goes, Quentin Johnson actually fucking sucks. Brandon Staley deserves to work at Starbucks. Our defense has literally gotten worse every single year since signing Khalil Mack. Every single week is nothing but pain. For the San Diego Chargers / Los Angeles Chargers super fan. Pray for him because, good Lord, has he gone through absolute hell this year as a Chargers fan.
Yeah, you heard it from Chargers fans yourself, but I'm sick of dwelling on the bad of the NFL. I'm sick of talking about the worst teams, the consistently sucking Panthers, the Chargers breaking their fans' heart, literally ripping it apart. So let's get some positivity in here. It's time for the most confidential top 5 list in the NFL right now. The reason you do have a computer, and we have the top 5 teams according to the Brickyard. We have the documents and we're ready to go. So at number 5, this was a team that has come on and off the list because of some inconsistent games. They've gotten blown out a few times at home. However, they had the one game in front of them that they had to go out there and win, and then it's pretty much smooth sailing from here, seal up their division, and then they go to Houston, get that win here. And that's the Jacksonville Jaguars. This was a team that I thought had the potential to get to a Super Bowl. They are my pick and my dark horse pick to get to the Super Bowl this year. And the reason why is because while they are a boring team and they don't necessarily jump off the screen, those are typically the types of teams that are going to go out there and then win the tough games because Trevor Lawrence isn't affected when he makes a turnover. I've seen him turn the ball over 4 times and then come back from being down 27-0 and win a playoff game. I believe in Doug Peterson. He's gotten to a Super Bowl, is a Super Bowl winning head coach. And then we just need to get Evan Ingram a touchdown here and get Calvin Ridley involved a little bit more in the game. But we saw a big play from Dearness Johnson. That's just how deep this team is, because he's the third running back on their depth chart right now. Goes out there, rips off a big play. They have the capability with 10 seconds left. And while they didn't go out there and get a field goal or a touchdown, they ended up inevitably getting stopped. Christian Kirk was able to run down the field and race down the field. And then we saw Christian Kirk get them to an opportunity to either get a field goal or a touchdown. They have the explosive potential, and their defense has quietly stepped up the past few weeks, where they're able to hold Houston to 21 points in Houston. So the Jacksonville Jaguars avenging their loss versus the Texans this year. One of the reasons why they had been bumped off previously and why they started 2-2, but they are still 8-3 now after starting 2-2, which is very impressive. Lost to San Francisco in a must-win game for the 49ers, but the Jacksonville Jaguars are staying on this list right now at number 5. And the reason why, you ask, why are they number 5? Why aren't they higher? It's because the team that beat them, we have to go with that on this list, and that is the Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas City Chiefs had been banished for a few horrendous games. They lost to the Denver Broncos, so I had to kick them on this list kick them off this list for 2 weeks, because you can't go to Denver against a team that you've owned. Well, that loss is looking a lot better now. You go to Oakland, your receivers play better, and then you go out there, come back from being down 14-0 and inevitably beat the Raiders. And then when you have a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes, who is the caliber to be the number 1 quarterback, not only the number 1 quarterback in the NFL, but has the talent to be the best quarterback in history, not named Thomas, Edward, Patrick, Brady. Mahomes has the talent to do that. When you give him a top 5 defense in the NFL, usually that is the ingredients and makings of a Super Bowl team, because we've seen Brady struggle in the regular season when all he had was Rob Gronkowski. So I have the Kansas City Chiefs here at number 4, because they haven't gone out there, beat the Niners, beat the Eagles, or beat the Lions yet. And oh yeah, the Detroit Lions, they lost, but they are number 3 because they went to Arrowhead, beat the Kansas City Chiefs, albeit without Travis Kelce, but they had a tough loss this week. Jared Goff has 3 fumbles, but you take one of those fumbles away, they definitely have a chance to win this game against the Green Bay Packers. They've always struggled on Thanksgiving versus the Green Bay Packers, so I still believe in the Detroit Lions. I'm staying fast in my conviction that the Detroit Lions are going to make it to a Super Bowl. It's meant to be this year, and this is a team that does need to overcome some adversity. But the fact that they are sitting here at 8-3 when they started off 1-7 last year and basically ran the table, giving themselves an opportunity to make the playoffs, if Baker Mayfield could step up and beat the Seattle Seahawks, which he had a chance to do, we would be having a different conversation. They're still rewriting history. They are still fighting bad juju and expunging demons from that organization. And so far, Dan Campbell has done a good job doing that, but this is a team that some adversity isn't going to hurt them. It's only going to make them a little bit better. So Jared Goff is going to learn from these turnovers. He's going to be better, and the Detroit Lions will be better for it. So I still have them trailing here at number 3 because they've beaten the other 2 teams on this list. At number 2, I mean, they have the best roster in football, the San Francisco 49ers. And then the game this week is going to determine who's number 1, but the San Francisco 49ers lose 3 games. Everyone in the media was panicking about Brock Purdy. I wasn't panicking because I knew it's called rookie mistakes. He still hasn't played a full season yet. He stepped in the middle of the season last year. Deebo Samuel wasn't there. His best tackle wasn't there. He has to go through some growing pains. He has to go through some adversity and to really overcome, go through the fire, and then actually learn something at some point during the season. It's only going to make them stronger going forward into the playoffs here. And then I have them, because of Nick Bosa, go out there, trade for Chase Young at the deadline. This team is stacked from top to bottom. They have the best roster in the NFL. The reason why they're not number 1 is because Nick Sirianni is a better coach than Kyle Shanahan. He doesn't have the fourth quarter errors that Kyle Shanahan has had in the past. And at number 1, 10-1, the Philadelphia Eagles, all they do is win close games. All they do is make the necessary adjustments and play just well enough to win it. You can move the ball on them, but they bend but don't break. Anytime they need a stop, they get it in overtime versus Josh Allen when he's having a Superman electric game like he has done before, and they drop the Bills to 0-5 in overtime since they cry, whine, and moan to get the rule changed, and it still doesn't matter because they're still 0-5. And then the Philadelphia Eagles on one leg, Jalen Hurts goes out there and beats the Dallas Cowboys, and situational football is really what it's going to come down to in the playoffs. And so far, the Philadelphia Eagles, the past 2 years, have been the best team in situational football. They do have the best wide receiver in football, not named Tyreek Hill, and AJ Brown, with the incredible tear he went on. And I do think D Swift is clearly an upgrade with Miles Sanders. And we've seen how bad Miles Sanders has been with the Carolina Panthers. And then you have Dallas Goedert out, and they're still able to play without him. And then just Jalen Carter stepping up, beating the Buffalo Bills without Fletcher Cox in that game. So at number one, bringing home the positivity, expunging the filth of the top 5 worst teams, we have the top 5 teams, rounding it out with the Philadelphia Eagles. We'll see what happens this week because it could change the list.
Fly, Eagles, fly. That is what I have to say about that list.
Fly, Eagles, fly. Anything you would change on this list? Any teams you would add? I had to drop the Ravens off this list just because they didn't look like they were the same without Mark Andrews. I had to drop Cleveland because DTR, PJ Walker, frankly, I contemplated maybe replacing the Jaguars with the Steelers because they looked really good without Matt Canada and have a chance to win their division, or potentially the Denver Broncos, but I still need to see them win more. But any other teams you would add to this list?
Only other teams I would shout out, although I think they're better as an honorable mention, the Cowboys. They've been playing good football. Dak Prescott's been playing good the last 5 games, and they have a great defense. I see why you didn't put them in the top 5 because I think you and I both know that they are typically pretenders.
No, they're frauds. The Bills and the Cowboys are banished from any top 5 list until they make it to a conference championship again or a Super Bowl. Cowboys, you can't be on a top 5 list if you haven't made a conference championship in the past few years, whereas the Lions are overcoming history and they haven't had the luxurious history that you've had in your past. And also, Jared Goff is better than Dak Prescott.
Yeah, and I also think that if your last NFC title game was on VHS, that's a bad sign.
Yeah.
So that's why we don't have the Cowboys on there. Not because I don't think they're a good team, but I think it's safe to say if these top 5 teams were to face them, they would probably they'd probably lose to all of them.
Yeah. And then, so for the NFC and the AFC, I figured we would do the likelihood of a Gabe Davis catch. So we'll just do a coin flip, heads or tails. Okay, it lands on the NFC. So we're going to cover the NFC first. How this is going to work is we're going to go over the bubble team. We're going to pretty much just rule out immediately any team that we know does not have a chance to make the playoffs. And then we'll go over any other team and their route to making the playoffs here, or if they could potentially make the jump to win their division. So I say, let's start with the bubble teams here. Going to scroll down for the standings 1 second.
Perfect. And I have it up here on my phone as well, going through the bubble teams. Who are still in the mix. I mean, currently, we can safely take out the Panthers, Cardinals, Commanders, Bears, and Giants. And most likely, I think those 5 teams we can expunge from any sort of chance of making it.
Yeah, I think the bubble really is the Cowboys are solidified as the 5 seed there, even though they do have a tough schedule. I think they're solidified to at least make the playoffs here. But I think the real bubble is Seattle, the Vikings, Green Bay, the Rams potentially, and then also the entire NFC South, except for the Panthers, I believe, still has a chance to win that division.
Yeah, so really, I don't think the Saints and the Bucks will not make a wild card spot, but they do have a chance because they're all within a game of each other in order to make it. In fact, the Saints and the Falcons have the same record, and the Bucks are only a game behind. So of those 3 games, we can go through of the schedule, what we expect the Bucks, Saints, and Falcons to finish as, and who could prevail as the winner from there.
Okay, so the Buccaneers are at 11 here. They have some ground to cover, especially within the division. Let's go over their matchups because they have beaten the Saints so far this year, if I'm not mistaken. And then I believe they lost to the Falcons.
Yeah, so they have beaten the Saints. They beat the Saints back in week 4, and they lost to the Falcons 2 weeks later. So now this is their schedule moving forward. So this week they face the lowly worst team in the NFL in the Carolina Panthers. And you and I probably both will pick them to win that game.
Right.
Because if they can score more than 10 points, they will most likely win that game. So that will put them at 5-7. And then they go to a pivotal game against the Falcons the following week, where they go to Atlanta to face the Falcons.
I think the last game came down to a field goal. Typically within the division, you have a chance to split with the veteran leadership on that defense. I'm actually going to go with Tampa to win that game.
Okay. So
especially Desmond Ridder. Ugh.
Yeah. So that would put them at 6-7, which would actually put them the same record as the Falcons. And then they have a tough game against the Packers, who are winners of their last 3 straight and are vying for a wild card spot as well.
Where is it?
This is in Green Bay in Lambeau.
Give me the Packers. We have the Baker clock too.
Yeah, so there's the Baker clock. That would put them at 6-8. Then they have a very tough game against the front runners in the AFC and the Jacksonville Jaguars.
No, you're not winning that game.
So that would put them at 6-9. And then they face the Saints in their second matchup, the game that they did win the first time.
Yeah, they can beat the Saints.
It's a possible game. That's a coin tip flop. So we put that as a win. That put them at 7-9. And then they finish out against the lowly Carolina Panthers.
Again, yeah. So 8-9.
8-9 or 7-10 is probably how they finish. I would probably put them as losers of that division at that point.
Okay.
So we have the Saints. So the Bucks most likely will finish 7-10 at that point. They have 2 games against the Panthers. They have a couple of in-division games that will be a key decider. So the Bucks are probably out of it. Would you agree with that?
Depending on the Saints and Falcons schedule. We'll see, because I have them at 8-9. You have them at 7-10. So let's see how tough the Saints schedule is coming up here.
So the Saints schedule, they have a couple of tough games. Their first game is this week against the Lions.
That's a loss. Lions are out for blood. They want vengeance.
Yeah, and the Lions, especially following a loss as well, they've come out roaring in every single game, no pun intended. And then they face the lowly Carolina Panthers the following week.
That's a win.
So that would put them at 6-7.
Okay.
And they face the Tommy DeVito Gabagool New York Giants.
Gabba win.
Gabba win. Then they face the Rams on Thursday Night Football.
Where?
In SoFi.
Ooh, that's like Rams aren't very good this year outside of their division. I think the Saints can win that game, but I do think it's a toss-up.
Okay, so that would put them at 8-7, and then they face the Bucks and Falcons to end it.
Bucks and Falcons to end it. I think they go 1-1.
1-1. Okay, so that would put them at 9-8.
I think, I think they probably lose to the Bucks, and you can beat Atlanta outside of Atlanta. So I think they do split with the Falcons there. So 9-8.
9-8, 8-9 is a record that we have here for the Saints. And then I'll pull the Falcons up here. They are currently the leaders of the division after the win against the Saints. Their schedule actually looks pretty tough as well. They do go to New York, or should I say New Jersey, to take on the New Jersey Boogers. As you've watched the worst top 5s, you know from now on they are the New Jersey Boogers to me.
Yeah, you have to win that game. If you lose that game, what the hell are we doing if we're losing to Tim Boyle and pack it up and leave Wilson?
Yeah, so that puts them at 6-6. Then they go and face the Bucks again for that following game.
Yeah, do you agree that the Bucks win that game?
Yeah, because they lost the first game, and I think that they're going to split.
Okay.
So that would put them at 6-7. And then they face the Panthers, which
That's
they
a win.
Everything's an automatic win against the Carolina Kitty Cats. So that puts them at 7-6. And then they face the Colts.
Loss. That's a loss.
Put that as a loss.
Definitely.
6-8. Then they face the Bears on New Year's Eve.
Where?
In Chicago.
Oh, that's a loss. So in Chicago? Yeah, no way.
So now they're 7-9. And then they face the Saints.
That's for the division, right? Yeah.
At that point, most likely it could be.
Yeah, I think that game is for the division. So I'm actually going to go with the Saints to win the division at home in the Superdome. Yeah, I think it has to be the Saints.
I think it's going to be the Saints ultimately at the end of the day.
I just believe in Derek Carr a little bit more than Desmond Ridder, and the Saints defense, Alvin Kamara and those boys have to go with it. So for that division right now, we think it would be Saints and Cowboys as the first matchup, which I kind of thought was a collision course coming into the season. So that's definitely doable. Let's quickly fly through the Rams schedule here, see if they even have a chance to make the playoffs, because right now they're sitting at 5-6. The Packers are 5-6 as well. The Seahawks are 6-6, and then the Minnesota Vikings are also 6-6 right now.
So they face the Browns next week in SoFi.
That's a loss.
So that puts them at 5-7, probably out of the race. And then they face the Ravens.
You're done. Okay.
So they're going to be 5-8 at that point. Then they face the Commanders.
That's a win.
So that's 6-8. And then they face the Saints, who need to win this game on Thursday night.
Yeah.
I think we had the Saints winning that game. So that puts them at 6-9. Then they face the Giants.
That's a win.
So that's 7-9. And then they face the 49ers to end it.
Yeah.
Chances are the 49ers are going to be benching players potentially.
That's true. Yeah. So I think you can finish 9-8, which is what we had them finishing at this year.
Yeah, so for them, they got about 3 more wins in the schedule. We see them beating the Commanders, Giants, and potentially the 49ers. So that would put them at 8-9.
8-9. Okay, yeah. So you're probably not making the playoffs. It depends on what the Packers and Vikings schedule is coming up here.
Okay, and the Packers have a couple of tough games to face. They start off against the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday Night Football this week.
Good luck.
This is a tough game. The Packers have been playing some good football. They had a good win against the Lions. They beat the Chargers, and their last tough game was against the Steelers, who they did lose against.
Is this at home, though?
This is in Lambeau.
I think they have a chance, but I have to go with the Chiefs.
Yeah, so that puts them at 5-7. We have them losing that game. Then they face Tommy DeVito, Gabagool, Monday Night Football.
Munch, Gabba Munch.
So that's Gabba Munch. So that's a win there. And then we have the Bucks game. Any Lambeau.
Yeah. Packers win that.
So that's 2 wins there. They have the Panthers, Carolina Kitty Cats, automatic win.
Yeah.
Then they face the Josh Dobbs Vikings on Sunday Night Football, New Year's Eve.
Have to go with the Packers. Josh Dobbs hasn't been the same. Seems like that offensive line is falling apart. What do you think?
That's a game I think the Vikings can win because Justin Jefferson will be back as well. So I do think that offense will be more dynamic. I do have the Vikings there. I think they just have more firepower. So I would take the Vikings to win that game. And then they end the season with the Bears.
The Bears? Yeah, that should be a win.
Yeah, because the last time they faced the Bears, they torched them on week 1. So we have a win against the Giants, a win against the Bucks and the Panthers. So that gives them 3 wins, and then a win against the Bears. So they're going to finish 9-8 in our projections.
9-8. Okay.
And then lastly, we have the Seattle Seahawks. They have pretty tough slate ahead of them. They have the Cowboys on Thursday Night Football this week.
In Dallas, I think the Cowboys have been so good at home. I have a tough time picking the Seattle Seahawks in this game, so I have to go with Dallas.
All right. That puts them at 6-6. Then they go to San Francisco.
Again, you got crushed at home. I don't think that's going to build on the road. So that's another loss.
And then they face the Eagles.
That's another loss.
And then they face the Titans. And this is where I think their schedule eases up just a little bit, facing the Titans Christmas Eve.
Yeah, but at this point, you're 6-8. I think
they could be done there.
Yeah.
And then they have the Steelers on New Year's Eve.
Where?
In Seattle.
Winnable, but I think the Steelers still win that game. I think the Steelers have more to play for, and they're playing for a home playoff game.
And then the Cardinals.
That's a win. Yeah.
Okay. So at worst, they're 7-10. At best, they are 8-9 or 9-8. So they might not make that mix. And that's the case. We have the Packers and the Vikings going into those final 2 wildcard spots. You want to look at the Cowboys schedule as well. I think we have them cemented as the 5th seed at that point.
I have them cemented as making the playoffs. I just think their roster is too good, and it'd be such a catastrophic failure for them to miss the playoffs. And, well, I'm not the biggest Dak Prescott fan in the world. I think he'll be able to do enough to get them to the playoffs. I would say that's a little bit more shaky if you do lose to Seattle at home on Thursday Night Football. So that could change. So as of right now, we would have Dallas. Would it be Green Bay or Minnesota?
I think the Vikings have the tiebreaker, so it would be the Vikings at 6 and the Green Bay Packers at 7.
Okay. So with that, we would have the San Francisco 49ers matching up with the Green Bay Packers in the first round. That's a lock for the San Francisco 49ers. They kind of own the Packers historically in the playoffs the past decade. And then we would have the Detroit Lions versus the Minnesota Vikings. And I think Detroit will be able to handle their business there. I don't think Josh Dobbs is going to be able to get it done. And I think Jared Goff, having that playoff experience, the Lions will get that victory there. And then I think the Cowboys get the victory versus the Cowboys, which we pretty much thought it was going to be Eagles, Niners, Lions in the second round. So I think that still is the case. Those are the four contenders. Everyone else on the bubble. It's a nice push, but unless you pull some magic out of your you-know-what, I think that's pretty much how the standings are going to fall, and then we'll see how that progresses over the next few weeks.
Yeah, maybe the Lions jump the 49ers, but I think that you're going to see Lions, Vikings, and if I'm the Lions, they haven't made the playoffs since 2016. They're facing a division foe who they consistently split with, and you have a Lions team that's hungry, that's probably had this game circled on their calendar. So Lions go out there, they take care of the Vikings. The 49ers take care of the Packers pretty handedly, and then the Cowboys take care of the Saints. I think it'll be a good game, but the Cowboys prevail. So we all have the same picks there. And then if we want to go over the second round at that point, that would be the Cowboys versus the Eagles and the Niners against the Lions.
Yeah, I'd have to see where those teams are at that point, but I think cementing the second round is good enough for now.
Okay. So at that point, we can move over to the AFC. And I think it's fair to say that the Patriots, New Jersey Boogers, as you know, I don't call them the New York Jets anymore, the Tennessee Titans, and the Los Angeles Chargers, all of which are 4-7 or worse. They are all but out. And I believe the Patriots are eliminated anyways.
Yeah, they're eliminated there. And I think it's pretty much the ninth seed up with the Denver Broncos and the Houston Texans. Right now, the playoff picture has the Colts as the 7th seed. And then we got
the Browns at 6 and the Steelers at 5.
Okay. So, yeah, I think that's definitely the bubble. And I feel like out of any of these teams that have a chance to win their division, it would be the Pittsburgh Steelers that could come back and win it.
Yeah, I think we can throw the Bills in there too because they are 6-6. So that's like the Big 10 at that point. With that, I know the Bills have a very tough schedule ahead. So it looks like that ship has probably sailed for them.
Okay. So let's start with the Broncos schedule. Let's see if they can make a push for the playoffs and where they'll end up.
So they have a very important game. They do have a bye week this week, so they're off. But then when they come back, they face the Texans.
The Texans, where are they?
In Houston.
Okay, so this is a tiebreaker basically to make the playoffs.
I might take
my heart says the Texans, but my head says the Broncos.
Yeah, I'd take the Broncos with a slight edge just because they're the hottest team right now, and I don't want to discount them. I do think that they get that win there, and they would move to 7-5.
Especially Sean Payton off of a bye. You're the hottest team in the league. Heading into the bye week, you can see everything you've done right here. You have time to fully game plan for CJ Stroud. Yeah. So I would go win there. And then you have the tiebreaker versus the Texans, and Texans have also lost to the Colts as well.
Yeah. So they're 7-5, and then they face the Chargers, the Heartbreak Kids.
Yeah,
in SoFi.
That's a win.
That's a win. And then they have a game against the Lions, which I believe we had as a Lions win.
Lions win.
And then they face the Patriots, who by then will be 2-14, 2-13.
Yeah, Mingham Mack is out of there.
Yeah, so by then they're probably starting Will Grier or Bailey Zappi moving forward. And then they face the Chargers again on New Year's Eve.
Yeah, that's another win.
And then they face the Raiders to end it.
Another win.
So they have a potential win against the Texans, 2 definite wins against the Chargers and Patriots, and then a win against the Raiders. So at that point, that put them at 10-7.
10-7. Yeah, so 10-7 should be enough to get you into the playoffs. Let's see what Houston has coming up here.
So Houston has that game against the Broncos. We're kind of 50-50 on that. We lean the Broncos, so we'll put the Broncos there. Then they follow up with a game against the Tim Boyle-led New Jersey Boogers, a.k.a. the New York Jets.
That's a win.
That's a win. They face the Titans next.
That should be another win.
That should be a win. Then they face the Browns on Christmas Eve.
That should be... Was that in Cleveland?
That's in Houston.
Yeah, they can win that game at home.
Okay, so they're on 3 straight wins at that point. They would be 9-6 at that point, and then they face the Titans again.
Yeah, so 11-6.
Yep, and then they face the Colts to end it.
Ooh, that's in Indianapolis.
That is Indy. Yep, that's in Indy.
I don't know. I think the Colts probably win that game just because historically they've owned Houston, but I think that'll be a really good matchup, and that could be for the last playoff spot there. That's going to be a really important game for both of these teams. Let's see what the Colts schedule is coming into it. Then I'll be able to make a decision on that game.
Yeah, so at that point, they would be 9-8 with those games there. So that's right where our projection was to start the season. So then we have the Colts, right? They have a bye week, and then they face the Titans.
That's an easy win.
I got to win against there. And then they face the Bengals with Jake Browning.
That's another one.
And then they face the Steelers.
That's where is it?
It's in Indy. I would take the Steelers personally.
Yeah, it's probably. I would give it to the Steelers.
Then they face the Falcons.
That's
in Atlanta.
I think they can win that game.
And then they face the Raiders.
That's a win.
All right. So we got 3 wins there. And then they face the Texans to end it. At that point, they would be 9-7, about to be either 9-8 or 10-7.
Yeah, so that would be basically to make the last playoff spot there in the mix with the Broncos.
Yeah. At that point, I do think that the Broncos will make it into there along with the we have Broncos and Texans there.
Yeah. Do you think Cleveland could make it in there?
Let's take a look at their schedule. So they have the Rams coming up.
That should be a good game, but they should win it.
Yeah, they should be favorites there. Rams are currently favorited, but it's by half a point. And then the Jaguars.
That's probably a loss. Is it in Jacksonville?
It's in Cleveland, but I think the Jaguars are the better team. I think they should win that. Then they face the Bears on Sunday the 17th.
That should be a win.
That should be a win. So that's 2 wins there. Then they face the Texans in Houston.
That's a tough game, but we had the Texans winning it.
We did. And then we have the Jets.
The Jets? Who are the Jets?
Oh, I'm sorry. The New Jersey Boogers on Thursday Night Football.
Yeah, they should win that game.
They should. Yep. So that's 3 wins. So they're 10-6 at that point, and they face the Bengals to end it.
Yeah, so they're going to definitely make the playoffs.
So the Browns are a lock to make it. Last team we'll look at is the Steelers.
I want to look at the Steelers and Ravens schedule too to see, because I think that division is up for grabs here. So I think the Steelers can definitely make it and then be either a 4 or a 3 seed.
Yeah. So the Browns we have as 10-7. So with the Steelers, they are also 7-4, but they do have the tiebreaker, and their schedule is significantly easier. They face the Cardinals next, and that's a win. Then they face the Patriots on Thursday Night Football.
That's a win.
Easy win. And then they face the Colts.
We had that as a win.
So that's 3 straight wins there. They're already at that point 10-4. And then they face the Bengals without Joe Burrow on a Saturday game.
That's a win. They already won in Cincinnati.
Yep. And then they face the Seahawks.
Yeah, we had them winning that game, but it could be up for grabs.
Yeah. And then they end the season with the Ravens.
Yeah, and I think they would win that game. They won in Baltimore. Kenny Pickett won on Sunday Night Football there, and then they already beat them so far this season without Mark Andrews. I think that's definitely a game the Steelers can win. Then they put themselves in a position to win the division.
So that would put them at 11-4 or 12-5 potentially, which is pretty remarkable considering how they played. And then let's look at the Ravens here. They are currently the 1 seed, but their schedule moving forward, they have the bye week, and then they face the Rams at home.
Yeah, that should be a win. They should be able to beat the Rams at home.
Then they have a really tough test on Sunday Night Football against the Jags.
The Jaguars, I think they lose that game. Not having Mark Andrews, I think, is too big of a loss to be able to compete.
Okay. And then they have another primetime game on Christmas against the 49ers.
That's a loss. I can't pick them to beat the Niners.
Okay. And then they face the Dolphins.
Dolphins came back on them last year. I think the Dolphins can beat the Ravens.
Okay. And then
they got to beat a winning team at some point, right?
Yeah. And they face the Steelers to end it.
Steelers to end it. So, yeah, I think the Steelers can win that game. I think they do win one of the games versus either the Niners, Jags, or Dolphins. So, but I think, yeah, that puts the Steelers in position to win. And what would the Ravens record be at?
So they beat the Rams, and these other games, they win maybe one of the 3. So that would put them at 11-5 to face the Steelers to end the season, which is probably going to be a tiebreaker for the division.
Yeah, that'll be a tiebreaker for the division. So, yeah, I do think that the Steelers end up winning the division. We had them at 11-6 to start the year. So if they're between 10 to 12 wins. So I think that will be the case. And then the Steelers will be able to make it. And would the Ravens still be a wild card?
Yeah, there would be a wild card at that point.
Okay. So we'd have Broncos, Browns, Ravens in what order?
So at that point, the Ravens would be the 5 seed. And then we had the Broncos at 10 and 7. They would be the 6 seed. And then I think we had the Texans as the 7th seed at 9 and 8.
Okay. Texans at the 7th seed at 9 and 8. Okay. So I think the Chiefs get the 1 seed there. And then I'll just slide the Jags up to the 2, put the Steelers at 3, and then keep the Dolphins. Actually, put the Dolphins at probably 3. Maybe they can stay at 4 there. Steelers at 3 just for the sake of it. So then we would have the Jags as the 2 seed matching up against the Texans.
Yep.
So I think they would be able to win that game.
Okay. And then it would be for the 3 seed, we had the Steelers at the 3 seed if they were winning that division.
Versus the Ravens or the Browns.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So I think they could win a playoff game.
Yeah. So at this point, it would be the Steelers and Ravens at that point.
Yeah, I think they could definitely beat the Ravens.
And then it would be the Dolphins and Browns.
Dolphins and Browns. I think the Dolphins win. I don't think you can win without a quarterback there. It would have to be a ton of turnovers by Tua, or the Cleveland Browns defense just completely shuts them down.
Yeah, so that put up for Dolphins, Jags, Chiefs, and
Steelers.
Yep.
Okay, and then we'd have Dolphins, Chiefs in the second round in Arrowhead.
Yeah, so the Dolphins would take on the Chiefs, and then it would be the Steelers
and Jags.
Steelers and Jags.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, it's probably going to be Jags and Chiefs in the conference championship.
Okay. So I think that's what we predicted earlier in the season. So interesting playoff mix. We're going to get more clarity as we get closer to it, but that's our breakdown of everything here with the playoff picture. And I think, as we get closer, it's only going to get even crazier.
Yeah, as we get closer, it's only going to get crazier, and then we're going to readjust this week by week. But this is the preview, just giving you everyone here a picture of the teams that they're going to face, how we think it's going to fall out. Let us know, though, if you think we're crazy down below. What teams you think your team would win. Let us know why we are wrong there. Let us know why you think we're right in some instances here, but that's a pretty good overall picture of the playoffs. But let's go ahead. We're going to do our weekly picks and then run through all of the games we have here. So just going to start out with Thursday night football. We have the Seattle Seahawks in Dallas. And then the Dallas Cowboys are 9.5 point favorites versus Seattle.
So I'm going to take the Seahawks to cover in this game. But I do have the Cowboys prevailing in this game. I think their defense is great. And I think that they're gonna put out all the stops against them.
Yeah, the Cowboys prevailing as well here. Do you think Seattle covers the points? I don't think Dallas is going to be able to front run that much against the Seahawks defense, but I do think just being at home, they've dominated there all year long. I think they'll be able to edge out with the victory. So both have the Cowboys there, but Seattle covering the spread. Then we have Denver versus Houston this week. Probably going to decide who gets that last playoff spot here. We both have Denver covering the points. Do you think they'll cover the spread there? It's going to be a 3-point game.
3-point game. Is it 3 points favored the Texans or Broncos?
Yeah, Texans are 3-point favorites at home.
3 point. I think this could honestly be a push game. I think this could come down to a field goal by Brandon McManus. Okay, so both have the Broncos in this game, and then you're jumping off the Texans bandwagon. I'm not jumping off them. I just think the Broncos are the hottest team right now, and they have time to prepare. So I think that they're going to be playing some good football. Okay.
So we both have the Broncos in this game as a push, take the 3 points there. Then we have the Arizona Cardinals heading to Pittsburgh at 2-10, going to the 7-4 Steelers. Pittsburgh's favorite at 5.5 at home. I would take the Steelers to cover that. I think that's probably going to be a 10 to 14 point victory for the Steelers, if not more. So I'll take the Steelers at Acrisure-Heinz.
Yeah, I think they can definitely win by a touchdown. So I'd definitely take the Steelers to cover, especially if their offense plays as well as it did last week.
Yeah, definitely. So both have the Steelers there, and then the Chargers at the Patriots. Moving on.
Yeah, I mean, does it like?
Can we tie? It doesn't matter at this point. They're both dead.
Make it a tie. Honestly, make the Chargers win so the Patriots have a better draft pick.
And then we have the Indianapolis Colts as only 1 point favorites on the road in Tennessee. They are coming off their victory this week at home versus Tampa Bay. I think the Colts win this game. I'll take the 1 points there. I think it's a little disrespectful to Indianapolis because they have been getting better the past few weeks as Jonathan Taylor rounds into shape. So give me the Colts here over the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah. I'll have the Colts winning here as well. They're vying for the playoff spot. Jonathan Taylor's got his legs under him. I think they're going to win this game.
And then we have the Miami Dolphins 9.5 point favorites versus the Washington Commanders. One thing we know about the Dolphins is they beat bad teams. They beat teams with a losing record, typically blow them out. It's going to be a track show. So give me the Miami Dolphins at 9.5.
To cover. I take them to cover as well. See a 30-point game from the Dolphins.
Okay, and then we have the Atlanta Falcons going on the road to take on the New Jersey East Rutherford Boogers. They are currently 2.5 point favorites on the road versus the East Rutherford team there that calls themselves a professional football team. I will go with the Falcons in this game begrudgingly. Don't love Desmond Ridder, but I don't know. I can't pick the East Rutherford team in this game.
Yeah, I mean, I would take the under in the over under here. I think the over under is 37. So I would take the under here. I think the Jets defense can contain the Falcons. However, they have to win this game. They have the division to take care of.
Yeah, and then we go to the Falcons on the road, or the Lions on the road versus the Saints. They are 4.5. They are 4 point favorites in New Orleans here, coming off a loss. The Lions have come out roaring and blowing out the other team in each of those games. So I'll take the Lions in this game on a mission to beat the Saints. Think Jared Goff definitely takes care of the football in this game and inevitably get the victory over Derek Carr and the subpar mediocre Saints.
Yeah, I agree. Lions coming off of a loss. They got the vengeance there. They're looking to be the 3 or 2 seed here and clinch that division. I see them taking care of the Saints.
And then we have the Carolina Kitty Cats going to Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is 5.5 point favorites. I'll take the points. Give me the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They are fighting their tails off to stay in the playoff race for their division. So give me the Bucs there to cover.
Do you see the Panthers without Frank Reich having some sort of offensive explosion, or it doesn't matter?
With who?
I don't even know who their head coach is at this point.
No, with what weapons though? Like, what is going to explode? Like, there's no one on that team that's capable of exploding. Chuba Hubbard, cool name. Miles Sanders, most disappointing running back and overrated player in NFL history potentially. And then Adam Thielen, is he going to have a resurgence in this game? I don't know. Maybe if they start Andy Dalton when they actually look good this year, but no. I don't think so.
Plus, the Bucs are fighting for that playoff spot, so
they have a good defense too.
Yeah, I'll take the Bucs to cover here.
And then we have San Francisco 3 point favorites in Philadelphia, basically saying that the 49ers are 6 point favorites to win this game in Philly. Probably looking for some revenge for that conference championship game here. Ooh. I'm going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles to win. Situationally, they have been better. Kyle Shanahan does have a tendency to blow games in the fourth quarter and mismanage the clock. I think the 49ers weapons are better, but situationally, I'll take Jalen Hurts as the better quarterback. And then I trust AJ Brown to make a play at the end of the game and Nick Sirianni over Kyle Shanahan. But give me the Eagles to take the points.
I'm going to take the 49ers in this game because I think that in this playoff push, I looked more to the NFL here. They want to have a competitive first round bye competition here. And if the Eagles go to 11-1, it's really kind of them running away with that 1 seed. So I think they want to bring the Eagles back down to earth a little bit. So I think there's going to be some calls that go the 49ers way. 49ers, they have this circled on their calendar. They've had it circled on since the NFC title game. I will take the 49ers to win this game in a game eerily similar to the Bills and Eagles game. But in this time, I think the 49ers prevail.
Okay. And then we have the Cleveland Browns taking on the LA Rams in SoFi, coming off a loss versus Denver, kind of showing first time this defense seemed a little bit human versus Russell Wilson, but I think that defense bounces back. No structural damage to the shoulder of Myles Garrett, so it looks like he can play through it. So give me the Browns in this game. I do think they'll be able to cover the points in this game, so give me Cleveland over the Rams in SoFi.
What's the spread on this game?
3.5. Rams are favorited.
Rams are favored at 3.5. I would take the Browns here as well. They got the better defense. I think that I understand their quarterback situation is a bit wonky, but at the end of the day, they're a team that wants to make the playoffs. They haven't made the playoffs since Baker Mayfield. I think they're going to go out there and win.
Yeah, I don't think this is a fun game for Stafford either. So
I think it's going to be a low scoring game, but I still have the Browns prevailing.
all right. And then we have Chiefs at Green Bay. Chiefs are favored at 6 points on the road. I don't think they're going to blow out the Packers in this game, and I think it'll be closer than a lot of people think. I'll take Mahomes over Jordan Love in this game. Obviously, it was when Jordan Love got his first start, but overall, I think the Packers will be able to put up enough of the fight to make it closer than a 6 point spread.
I have the Chiefs covering the spread, and I think it's more. I point more to George Karlaftis, Chris Jones, Trent McDuffie, all the guys over there. I think that they can mitigate the Packers offense and the Chiefs moving towards that number 1 seed.
Okay. Yeah. So you have the Chiefs in that game. I have the Packers at least covering, but the Chiefs winning. So those are our picks for this week. We have previewed the playoff picture, giving you the top 5 teams, top 5 worst team, best list around. We have the documents. We have all of the secret knowledge to put those teams where they are here. Anything else you want to preview for the week, or has everyone been previewed way too much and been taught too much about history in our recap episode as well?
Well, they know now who the top 5 best teams are. They now know who the top 5 best teams are. They know now that the New York Jets are now the New Jersey Boogers. They know the Carolina Panthers are now the Carolina Kitty Cats. And they all know what they can make in their parlays to make them all the rags to riches stories. We know our parlays do hit. We have a high winning percentage this year. So go out there, make yourself some money. Don't forget about the Brickyard podcast. Make sure to shout us out. But other than that, we have previewed you very well. So we will see you at the booth, my friends.